The following presentation was recorded at an Tran Airways Care Team training in June of 2008 with the permission of Paul McIntosh. Mr. McIntosh is a survivor of American Airlines 1420, which crashed upon arrival at the Little Rock, Arkansas Airport on June 1, 1999. Please be aware that what you are about to see does contain graphic material which may be unsuitable for some audiences. Additionally, Mr. McIntosh explains his experience with emergency procedures and would like for the viewers to be reminded to always follow their company training and manual requirements. Tran Airways is truly grateful to Mr. McIntosh for sharing his experiences with us. We express our heartfelt gratitude to Paul in helping us learn how we can better assist survivors and families affected by an aviation disaster. Further ado, Paul McIntosh.
Thank you. Also, let me give you a little bit of background before I start kind of laying the scenario for this here. Prior to 1420, I have several, kind of want to get you guys to get to know me a little bit. Prior to this, I originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, lived the majority of my life in Omaha, Nebraska. My parents were in the military, in the Air Force. In Nebraska, I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, as well as a small town called Albion, Nebraska. Some of you that are familiar with Midwest values can probably correlate some of the things I'm going to tell you in this story. I think somebody earlier was talking about doing what you needed to do. You're going to definitely be able to correlate that here into this situation. So, grew up in Nebraska, small town. After that, I went to the University of Nebraska, walked on the football team there temporarily, ran out of money, and then went into the Air Force and became a crew chief on a C-141 cargo aircraft, C version. So that's where some of my experience and exposure comes from, flight systems and so forth, maintenance. So again, my perception of this story I'm going to tell you is a little bit more clear because I understood the dynamics of the accident a little bit better than maybe the regular lay person. It's very difficult for them to process a lot of this information. Also, with regards to the military background, you're going to see a very relevant characteristic amongst the behavior of some of the individuals from the accident, and that it then is applied to some of the action that they take and so forth. So. Let me go ahead and start this out. My original departure city that day was Phoenix, Arizona. It was June 1st, 1999. At that time, Phoenix was pretty hot. We were heading to Dallas-Fort Worth. I was on an assignment as a consultant for a company, small company. My original destination was going to be Memphis, but in this particular case, the company decided to send me to Little Rock and then take a rental car from Little Rock to Memphis. Was supposed to schedule to be in there probably about 10 o'clock, 10:30. In tow, I had another individual from the company itself that was going to a Train the Trainer seminar. And this lady had never flown before. So we left Phoenix, Arizona. We got to Dallas-Fort Worth. Very, very clear day. The person that was with me during the initial flight talked a lot. So when I got to Dallas-Fort Worth, I decided to change seats. So I moved. My initial seat was supposed to be back in row 32 with her. I moved, had my seat changed to seat 10A. During that afternoon, who's from the Midwest? Y'all know what happens with the weather, right? Totally clear day, give it a couple hours. Level 2 thunderstorm starts rolling through Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. When that started happening, you know how the system goes. Everything starts to get pushed back, cancellations, you have late departures and so forth, and it actually moved the departure for our particular flight back approximately an hour and a half. Okay. The original equipment that was going to be used for this particular flight was supposed to come in from McAllen, Texas. Never arrived. It was canceled. So American moved another MD-80 into the jetway. Let's see if this works. Yeah, I figured it didn't. Needs a new battery. All right. It was, they moved a new piece of equipment, an Super 80 into the jetway, and then awaited for a crew to be assigned. The crew that ended up being assigned for this particular flight started their duty day earlier in the day at LAX. Their destination from LAX was Chicago O'Hare, and then they made their way down to Dallas-Fort Worth. By the time the aircraft was preparing to depart, the departure time was now 2 hours delayed. Okay. The crew, Captain Richard Bushman, who was a Czech airman, chief pilot for American, one of the best, and then a gentleman, Michael Oriel, as the FO. Michael Oriel had just started with American Airlines about 6 months earlier. So he's fairly new to the company, but he had some experience, previous experience. So it was a very interesting combination in the cockpit. When they arrived, the aircraft started being loaded, and approximately about just a little before 10 o'clock, boarding was complete. The doors were shut, and the aircraft departed for Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't know if you guys can really see that picture, huh? Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. So we're on an MD-80. I'm sure you're all familiar with what that looks like here. So the aircraft left Dallas-Fort Worth. It was uneventful. It was clear already again. So that level 2 thunderstorm that passed through Dallas-Fort Worth was already making its way towards Little Rock. By the time that storm got to Little Rock, it became a level 6 thunderstorm. Level 6, if you take a look at this weather loop, this is actually Little Rock Airport. At 11:50 at the time of the accident, you're going to actually see in this weather loop you're going to see a very deep red piece go right by there, right there. That is 85-mile-an-hour winds and 2.5-inch hail. Rain is coming down at roughly about an inch every 10 minutes, right in that area. Visibility is 35 feet, as reported by ARF. On board, they're reporting under 1,600 feet. Okay, so as we're making our way to Little Rock, on the left-hand side of the aircraft, I can actually see us approaching that storm front, about 100 miles out. And it was a very, very electrical storm. In fact, the captain came on the intercom and advised that there was quite a light show happening on the left-hand side of the aircraft, that we would be coming into Little Rock soon, and that apologizing for the late arrival. At the meantime, dispatch from Dallas-Fort Worth sent an ACARS message directly to the cockpit. The message basically stated, with regards to the storm, that there was 2 storm fronts, kind of like a bowling alley effect, approaching Little Rock, quickly approaching Little Rock. The dispatcher then advised in the ACARS message, please expedite your arrival. Storm's approaching. So that was kind of the first domino to the accident. So when we got to about 100 miles outside, and this is kind of you can't see it all that well. This is a look from the CVR of what was actually being described. You start way down here. Of course, obviously you don't see the weather conditions or anything like that, but you can actually see the conversation between the captain and the first officer. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think this is an inverted S over the airport, kind of. So, something in that. Yeah. So, I mean, here it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the conversation that's going on. 11:50 is the impact time that you can see way up here. So as we come in towards the Little Rock Airport area, you can kind of see some of the dialogue that's actually going on here between the captain and the first officer. Now naturally, since the weather has gotten a lot worse, they are very concerned about what's going on. And you can kind of see that here in the dialogue that's going on here. Visibility is obviously a concern here, and one continues to not be able to see. The other one thinks they see. I'm going to show you an animation now. This is the NTSB animation of the accident itself. And I'll try to walk through it with you real quick here. I'm not going to get very technical with you. I know, obviously, we're not all pilots. So what you're going to see here is an actual animation of the aircraft landing at Little Rock and what happens afterwards. You're not going to see weather conditions. Obviously, it's not a true likeness of Little Rock Airport. Back then in 1999, Little Rock Airport, at this particular runway, had a drop-off that went down towards the Arkansas River. That drop-off, after a runoff area, had retaining material along the hill, and you'll see it in some of the pictures. Also on that hill was localizers, as well as an approach. There was a walkway that ran out into the river where you could do maintenance on the approach lights. So let me go ahead and play this for you so you can watch it. I should have Tom narrating this. I think it's 156 knots right here we're going. You can see the aircraft's a little bit offline. You'll actually see the conversation going on between the two. Here's your spoilers down here. Aircraft's going to, you can see they're kind of left of center. The aircraft's going to touch down. There's actually a crosswind here of approximately 45 knots right in that area. Aircraft starts to slide on the runway. Deploying the thrust reversers. There's no engagements of the spoiler whatsoever here. Thrust reversers on. He actually removes the thrust reversers to try to gain control of the aircraft. Steers the opposite direction. The tail comes back over. About this time, I'm looking out my window and watching sod go by my window. And then it goes off the end of the runway. Let me borrow a seat here real quick. Yeah, absolutely. During the approach, as I was watching this, and I kind of, there's a certain time frame that you know that you're going to land, from your initial descent. There's usually that time frame that you understand that you're usually going to be on the ground. Well, after doing this kind of loop around the airport, I kind of realized that there was some weather conditions. You could actually see it out the window. And I kept looking back to the leading edge of the wing since I was sitting in 10A. And as you know, in an MD-80, there's not a lot of space between you and the seat in front of you. I think it's probably 24 inches maybe, not a lot. And so as I was kept looking back to the leading edge during the lightning flashes, I could actually see the ground, the topography, and it looked like a lot of water had already pooled in a lot of places. It had been raining quite hard. But I kept looking back at the leading edge. We were taking a lot of water. I could see it bouncing off the leading edge, a lot of water coming off the wing. And so as we started to come in into the approach, I could feel that sensation of the aircraft banking just before the runway. So immediately, with all the water, my inclination was this probably isn't going to turn out very well. The attitude of the aircraft, as I was looking down the center of the aircraft, I could tell that it was off-centered. So immediately, one of the things I did was I slid down in my seat, put both feet on the floor, grabbed a hold of the armrest, and then pushed without locking my arms or my legs out. Okay? So when we touched the ground, the aircraft bounced up, came back down again, and immediately started sliding. So as I'm in this position, going this way, I could see what was going on outside, but I could feel that sliding sensation. So I just held on and kept my head below the seat back. There's a reason why that is. As the aircraft started to roll out, it then rotated back to the right, the nose, and then at that point I could see the what I could see was just the end of the runway. After that, it was complete pitch black. So as the aircraft went off the end of the runway, the aircraft went airborne again. In the initial impact where we hit the approach light walkway, it hit the front nose of the aircraft and like a buzzsaw started going right down the center aisle. And then immediately the second impact, we struck the approach light stanchion. The aircraft broke at row 18 in half and ignited a center fuel tank that was full. My impact immediately was I was thrown forward probably with about 2,500 pounds of pressure, hit the seat in front of me with my chest. At the same time, my left knee hit the seat in front of me, and where the magazine pouch was, there's a metal rod in there, right? Hit that metal rod with my left knee, it popped out, hit me in the kneecap, and stuck all the way up to my hamstring. It was completely pitch quiet in the aircraft after the impact, and then immediately the aircraft busted out into